They were supposed to die. But fate had other plans. Above the swirling atmosphere of an uncharted planet, two escape pods blazed across the sky like twin comets. Inside one, Leo Vance gritted his teeth, hands clenched around malfunctioning controls. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The last thing he saw before impact was the cold expression of the man in the other pod. Dante rail drifting in a different direction as the gravity of the planet tore them apart. Then, darkness. When Leo awoke, he was floating no, being carried. Strong arms held him gently as a blur of soft voices surrounded him, foreign and melodic. His vision struggled to focus. Above him, the sun was lavender. The sky shimmered with hues he couldn't name. And around him, women tall, graceful, with skin ranging from pale gold to deep obsidian watched him with curiosity and caution. Leo tried to sit up but pain surged through his chest. He groaned, and immediately a cool hand touched his forehead. A woman, with teal markings beneath her eyes and braided silver hair, knelt beside him. She didn't speak his language, but her voice was soothing. The Askara. He would learn their name later, along with their history, a tribe of healers, scientists, and spiritual leaders. They believed in balance, in harmony. And though they had never seen a man before, they did not see him as a threat. Only a question. Half a world away, Dante woke to a different reception. His escape pod had crashed near a smoldering cliffside. The terrain here was harsh, jagged rocks, red dust, violent winds. And the figures that approached him were not gentle. Their armor was bone white, adorned with spikes and crimson war paint. Their eyes gleamed with suspicion and hunger for dominance. These were the Neris. Where the Askaras sought peace, the Neris worshipped strength. Battle was holy. Power was law. And Dante, bruised and bleeding, saw opportunity in their snarling faces. He didn't plead. He didn't cower. He stood, blood streaming from a cut on his brow, and smiled. I am not your enemy, he told them. I am the weapon you've been waiting for. They took him in. Back in the Askara's sanctuary, Leo recovered quickly. The tribe's technology was advanced but organic, grown rather than built. Bioluminescent vines weaved through the village, providing power and communication. The women moved with elegant discipline, and though language was a barrier, Leo found connection in kindness. A young Askara woman named Kayla became his bridge. She had studied ancient alien dialects and slowly pieced together his tongue. Through her, he learned of the planet's past, of how long ago men had vanished in a great schism, leaving only matriarchal lineages. The return of a male was not just strange. It was prophetic. Whispers began. Meanwhile, Dante wasted no time. He taught the Neris how to refine the wreckage of his pod into weapons. He shared knowledge of off-world tactics, military doctrine, psychological warfare. He didn't see himself as a survivor. He saw himself as a king in the making. The Neris loved him. But love in their world was earned through blood. Dante stood in the arena within days, challenging warriors twice his size. He fought dirty, fast, and clever. When he emerged victorious, he declared, "Your strength is impressive. But it is wasted without vision. Let me lead you into a future where you rule not just this planet but the stars." And they listened, Weeks passed. Leo helped repair Iskara infrastructure damaged by ancient quakes. He taught basic mechanics, shared star maps, and most importantly listened. He learned their values, their grief, their hopes. In return, they showed him their trust. But tension brewed. Strange lights appeared over the horizon, scouting ships crafted from alien alloys. Neris patrols growing bolder. Iskara's scouts vanished. One night, as the lavender moon rose, Kayla whispered to Leo, "Another like you has come, but he brings war." Leo looked up, heart sinking. Dante. Somewhere out there, his old crewmate was building an army. And the fragile piece of this new world was cracking. It began with a crash. And it would end with a coronation or a conquest. Leo woke to the scent of blossoms and the hum of life. Days had passed since the crash, and his body bruised and battered was finally beginning to heal. The Iskara had woven their quiet magic through him, herbal vapors, biotechnological wraps, and something more, something soulful. He had never known care like this. Not even on Earth. Outside the healing chambers, the village breathed with rhythm. Vines pulsed with soft light across archways of living wood. Children chased floating pollen orbs through the air, their laughter mingling with distant chants from the temple of renewal. And among them walked Leo, still a stranger, but no longer a threat. He spent his mornings helping rebuild a collapsed greenhouse. The women were cautious but curious, and Leo, sensing their caution, never pushed. He offered instead knowledge. He explained water filtration systems, showed how to convert sunlight into energy with simple crystalline panels. They listened, tested, questioned, and slowly began to trust. It wasn't long before Kayla brought him to their central council. 9 elder women, each marked by the sacred Bile tattoos of the Iskara, stood in a half-circle beneath the canopy of glowing leaves. Through Kayla's careful translation, they asked, "Why did you come? What is your purpose? What is your gift?" Leo thought for a moment. Then, instead of offering promises or grand visions, he reached into his satchel and pulled out an old photo, faded and torn. It showed a child and a woman beside a ruined earth shelter. "This was my family," he said. "I couldn't save them. But maybe I can help someone else." That night, they lit the fires of welcome. Half a world away, Dante was writing a different chapter. He had studied the Neris and seen their hunger for direction, for prophecy, for conquest. He gave them what they wanted, a narrative. Wearing a cloak fashioned from his crashed canopy, Dante limped into their arena with calculated drama. His eyes, rimmed in ash, stared into the fire-lit crowd. In his hand, he held a sphere, the interface core from his escape pod. With a single gesture, he activated a hologram, a spinning model of the galaxy. Gasps erupted. None among them had seen stars like this. "I fell from the heavens," Dante declared. "Not by accident but by design. The stars themselves sent me. I am the one your ancestors foresaw. The one who will lead you to the stars." Some laughed. Others stared. One warrior threw a blade at his feet. "Prove it." And so he did. Not with strength but spectacle. Dante rewired a piece of thruster tech to ignite like a miniature sun. He programmed the pod's AI fragment to project images of Neris legends, mythic beasts, glowing weapons, ancient queens. He fed their hunger with fire and illusion, blending fact with fiction until even the doubters began to kneel. He became not just a guest but a prophet. Back in his carried territory, Leo was discovering something deeper than acceptance. He was building bonds. He spent afternoons in the temple gardens, showing healers how to graft terran herbs into a local flora. He taught the curious how to calculate using earth numerals. At night, he sat by the fires with Kayla, exchanging tales, hers filled with moon-born spirits and matriarchal heroes, his echoing war, loss, and survival. "Your world is broken," Kayla said one evening. "But you are not." Leo smiled. "Neither is yours." "Not yet." They grew close not in fiery passion, but in quiet understanding. Where others saw him as mystery, Kayla saw something else, possibility. Meanwhile, Dante's influence expanded like a wildfire. He declared the beginning of the Star Age for the Neris, convincing them that other worlds awaited their domination. He identified a constellation Zerethos, in Neris tongue, and claimed it was their ancestral homeland. He promised ships, weapons, glory. To cement his role, he chose a champion Saraxot, a ruthless general with eyes like molten steel. Through her, he enacted drills, mock battles, and training in off-world tactics. He whispered strategy into her ears and vengeance into the hearts of her warriors. The Neris no longer questioned his arrival. They began to prepare. And as both men carved their places into this alien world, fate sharpened its blade. One built through healing, the other through illusion. But both would shape the planet's future. And only one would be remembered as king. The storm came not from the sky, but from the past. In the heart of the Iskara's sanctuary, deep beneath the Temple of Renewal, an ancient archive stirred for the first time in centuries. Bioluminescent glyphs pulsed to life along the crystalline walls, reacting to the presence of Leo. The High Eldress, Saelri, had summoned him at dawn, her voice grave with a mixture of awe and fear. "We have found something," she said, leading him into the cavernous chamber. Kayla followed, silent but wide-eyed. The archive sang as they entered, humming with forgotten frequencies. Leo approached the central pedestal, where a crystal orb began to rotate slowly on its own. Within it, shapes formed, a figure falling from the sky, fire trailing his descent, surrounded by stars and a crown of flame. Kayla's voice quivered as she translated the glyphs aloud. "From the sky he shall fall, marked by loss and fire. And from his hands, the fate of our world shall rise or burn. One shall lead, and one shall deceive. The chosen must choose." Silence followed. This is about me?" Leo asked, though the answer already beat loud in his chest. Saelri nodded slowly. "We have long believed it to be metaphor. A lesson in duality. But now, you and the other Dante, you are both from the stars. Two paths. One destiny." The weight settled over Leo like gravity returning. He had not come to rule, or to fulfill prophecy. He had come to survive. But fate was shifting the board beneath him. Word of the prophecy spread faster than light. Among the Iskara, there was division. Some saw Leo as a blessing, others as a harbinger of coming war. The younger council members urged preparation. The older ones, caution. Kayla stood by him, defending his intentions, But even she could not still the rising tide of fear. Meanwhile, across the Wormspine Mountains, Dante's ears burned with the same revelation. Saraxa brought him a captured scroll, recovered from a raided Azkara outpost. It bore the same prophecy etched in a forgotten dialect, yet unmistakable in its imagery. "So I'm not just their savior," Dante murmured, a smile creeping across his face. "I'm their destiny." He wasted no time. Before the fires of the Neris Council, he proclaimed the ancient words, twisting them just enough to fit his narrative. He declared the other man, Leo, a false messiah, a deceiver sent to poison the minds of the Azkara and weaken the planet before conquest. "You were right to train," he said, pacing before ranks of armored warriors. "But now, we train for war. Not conquest. Not greed. Salvation. We must strike before the deceiver corrupts them all." War drums echoed through the canyons. In Azkara, the mood turned from uncertain to urgent. Leo pleaded for calm, for understanding. "If we prepare for battle, we become the very thing the prophecy warns against. And if we do nothing, we risk annihilation," one of the council women snapped. Kayla took his hand in private. "They fear him, Leo. They fear what he might become. Not because he is strong but because he believes he is right." Leo stared into the distance, past the domed skylights of the village, into the lavender dusk. Somewhere out there, Dante was twisting truth into a blade. And he was running out of time. In secret, Kayla led Leo to a hidden observatory, one that had not been used in generations. There, under the open stars, she revealed something else, a third verse of the prophecy, long lost, found etched in an old star chart. "Only one shall rise. But not by force. Not by blood. The true king is the one who heals what was broken." Leo exhaled, as if for the first time in days. The war was coming. But perhaps there was still another way. War came not with thunder, but with the silence before dawn. In the dead hours of morning, the Neris army began to move. Rows of armored warriors marched through the jagged canyons, guided by firelight and Dante's words. Their faces were painted with crimson symbols, their blades forged from scavenged metal and bone. Saraxa led the front ranks, her eyes unblinking, her mind sharp with a singular command: conquer. Atop a stone platform carved into the mountain's face, Dante stood in ceremonial garb, the sky still dark behind him. He raised his hand, and the army halted. "Today, you become legends," he called out, his voice amplified by Neris tech. "Strike now, before the deceiver cloaks himself in the hearts of the weak. Let the stars remember your names." They roared in response, and the march resumed. In Azkara, the scent of dew still hung in the air when the first scouts brought news. A Neris force had breached the lowlands. Leo stood with Kayla in the council circle, surrounded by voices of fear and defiance. "There's still time," Leo insisted. "Let me speak to him." To Dante. "Maybe I can stop this." "He will not listen," Kayla whispered. "He never did." Still, Leo tried. With a white flag woven from Azkara silk, he rode toward the edge of the frontier, accompanied only by Kayla and a pair of unarmed guards. The land beyond was scorched and shadowed, the trees twisted by the dry winds. They met beneath a dead archway where rivers once flowed. Dante arrived on a hover strider, cloaked in silver and black. Saraxa closed behind him like a sentinel wolf. Leo dismounted. This doesn't have to happen. We can build something together. This world isn't ours to divide. Dante smiled as though the sun had never risen. You still think this is about peace? You misunderstand your role, Leo. You were never meant to lead. You were meant to lose. Kayla stepped forward. You twist prophecy to feed your hunger. This planet will choke on your lies. Dante's eyes flicked to her, then back to Leo. I offered them purpose. What have you offered? Doubt? Dreams? They chose me. He turned his mount. The next time we meet, Leo, it won't be with words. By nightfall, the skies over Iskara burned. The Nereus struck like fire unleashed. Their war machines, crude but deadly, shattered the outer fields. The defenders held the first line with shields of woven light, but numbers wore them thin. Blades clashed. Screams rang across the hills. Leo fought beside the Iskara warriors, wielding only a reinforced staff and his instincts. He had never been trained for this, but survival taught its own lessons. He disarmed a Nereus attacker with a sweep, spun, and knocked another unconscious with a blow to the temple. But then he heard her scream. Kayla had been separated, trapped beneath a crumbling archway as fire bloomed around her. 3 Nereus closed in, blades gleaming. Without thought, Leo ran. The ground cracked beneath him as debris fell, and he dove through dust and flame, pulling Kayla free just as the arch collapsed. He shielded her with his body as stones rained down, bruising his back but sparing her. She looked up at him, breathless, eyes wide. You came back. Always, he said, helping her up. Word of the rescue spread like sparks on wind. When dawn broke, the Nereus had withdrawn, more a test than a siege. But the Iskaras saw what they needed, not just a fighter, but a protector. Someone who risked everything for one of their own. In the village square, the wounded were treated, fires extinguished, and mourning began. But amidst the ash, whispers grew stronger. Maybe the prophecy was true. Maybe the one who would rise was not the loudest but the one who bled for peace. Leo stood beside Kayla as the twin suns crested the horizon. War had come. But so had hope. Night cloaked the Iskara highlands in silence. The fires of the recent battle had burned low, replaced by quiet rebuilding and subtle tension. Though the Nereus had retreated, no one believed they were finished. Leo remained vigilant. Patrols doubled. Watchtowers buzzed with low-frequency alarms. But it wasn't the soldiers he feared. It was Dante. Far from the border, Dante sat in a dim chamber of obsidian stone, flanked by war maps and emissaries. Saraxa stood nearby, arms crossed. Strike the heart, not the shield, Dante said softly, eyes narrowed. Kill Leo, and the Iskara will fold. He dispatched a single operative restrained, masked, and armed with a neuro blade. Their orders: silence, swiftness, no witnesses. 3 nights later, under the new moon, the assassin slipped into the Iskara's sanctuary like a shadow. Gliding through corridors of living architecture, past slumbering healers and glowing flora, they found Leo meditating beneath a tree of light. The blade was raised. But Leo moved, Instinct or fate, his body twisted just in time, and the blade only grazed his arm. He rolled backward, grabbing a staff nearby and parrying the next strike. The assassin pressed hard fast, relentless, like a ghost trained to kill without hesitation. Kayla heard the commotion and rushed in, weapon drawn, but Leo shouted, "No!" With a final feint, he disarmed the attacker and drove the staff into their shoulder, forcing them to the ground. The mask slipped. Beneath it was a young woman barely more than a girl with a bleeding wound and eyes filled with fury. The Askara guards swarmed the chamber. "Kill her," one shouted. "Wait," Leo commanded. He knelt beside the girl, pressing a cloth to her wound. "She came to kill me, yes. But she is not the enemy. Not truly. She's a pawn. Like I was." Kayla stood frozen, watching Leo cradle the assassin not with triumph, but compassion. She stepped forward slowly, and knelt beside him. "What will we do with her?" she asked quietly. "Heal her," Leo said. "And listen." The assassin, confused and in pain, looked at him through a haze of disbelief. No one had ever spared her before. News of the incident spread through the village by dawn. Some questioned Leo's mercy. Others praised it. But none could deny what they had seen, a man who refused to lead through blood. That evening, Kayla brought Leo to the temple gardens. Lanterns floated above flowering vines, casting soft light across the pathways. Music from a wind instrument played distantly. "You could have let her die," Kayla said. "No one would have judged you." "That's exactly why I didn't," Leo replied. "Because that's what they expected. What Dante would have done." Kayla studied him. "You still hope to save him?" Leo didn't answer. The silence said enough. They walked in quiet harmony, their steps in rhythm with the wind. The war weighed heavy on everyone, but in this moment, there was peace. She stopped near the fountain of memories, its surface shimmering with projected constellations. "When I was a child," she began, "I believed the stars were gods watching over us. But now, I think they are just stories, waiting to be written." Leo turned to her, voice softer than the wind. "Then let's write one worth remembering." Kayla smiled, faintly at first, then fully, her eyes reflecting the starlight above and the firelight within. From that night, the air between them changed. Not rushed, not declared, but undeniable. Over the next days, the wounded assassin named Thera began to speak. She described the desperation of the Naris ranks, the cult of belief surrounding Dante, and how any dissent was crushed. Leo visited her daily, not as a jailer but as a listener. In time, even she began to doubt the man she once served. Kayla saw it all: the trust Leo built, the way others looked to him for more than just orders. For meaning. For hope. And for the first time, she began to believe something impossible, that the prophecy might have been right after all. But not in the way anyone had imagined. Not a king crowned by conquest, but one chosen by the hearts he saved. The earth trembled before anyone saw the sky darken. It began with a low hum barely audible, like a forgotten song reverberating beneath the soil. Then came the cracks. Fissures split the red plains beyond the border, releasing bursts of green steam and the scent of scorched minerals. Animals fled. Birds vanished. Even the wind dared not speak. Atop the Wormspire Plateau, Dante stood alone before a jagged altar of black stone, his hands resting on a console etched with ancient runes. The device had slumbered for millennia, hidden beneath layers of myth and ash. Now, awakened by Dante's will and his stolen knowledge, it roared back to life. The Doomsday Engine. Across the valleys, monoliths of alien alloy rose from underground like skeletal towers. Energy arced between them, forming a shimmering dome of pure destructive potential. The weapon was not aimed at one tribe but the entire region. A final judgment. Saraxa approached, unease in her eyes. Dante, this wasn't the plan. You said we would win, not erase the world. He didn't look at her. This world is broken. Only through fire can we reshape it. News reached the Iscaro within hours. Refugees poured in from the outer villages, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths filled with stories of machines rising from the earth. Leo stood before the council, the blood draining from his face. This isn't war anymore, he said. It's extinction. Kayla gripped his arm. We have to stop him before it fully charges. Leo nodded. We don't need an army. We just need a chance. Under cover of dusk, Leo, Kayla, and a small team of Iscara engineers made their way toward the heart of the rising storm. Thera, the former assassin, now walked at Leo's side silent, eyes hard with resolve. They reached the outer edge of the machine field by nightfall. Pulsing energy surged through the air, making their hair rise and skin buzz. The central core lay half buried in obsidian stone, protected by a shimmering barrier. Dante's throne stood atop it like a crown. Leo stepped forward. You don't have to do this, Dante. You'll kill them all, yours and theirs. This isn't power. It's madness. Dante laughed from above, hollow and cold. You still don't understand. This world doesn't need saving. It needs a new god. And he pressed the final sequence. A deep pulse shook the ground. The energy field crackled, preparing for detonation. Leo turned to Kayla. There's a way to override it. But someone has to go inside. Her eyes widened. It will kill you? Then it's a price I'm willing to pay. Before she could stop him, Leo dashed toward the base of the core, diving through a gap in the shield as the others worked to hold it open. Inside, heat and static assaulted him. He stumbled toward the ancient console, trying to translate symbols through a haze of pain and light. The countdown began, 90 seconds. He worked quickly, bypassing fail-safes, overriding power circuits. The interface burned his hands, but he didn't stop. He thought of Kayla, of the children in the sanctuary, of the stars that once meant home. 30 seconds. His vision blurred. The core's defense system surged, sending a blast of energy through his chest. He screamed and collapsed, smoke rising from his body. Outside, Kayla felt the surge and ran. She forced her way through the shield with Thera's help, reaching Leo as the machine shuddered violently. He was unconscious, barely breathing. Sparks erupted all around them. No, she cried. You don't get to leave me. She activated the override Leo had nearly completed, finishing the final sequence with trembling hands. The dome blinked, then collapsed. The machine fell silent. The towers withdrew into the earth, and the sky cleared for the first time in days. The danger had passed. But Leo lay still. Back in the sanctuary, days blurred into nights. The healers worked tirelessly. Kalen never left his side. Thera stood watched like a sentinel. And finally, as dawn broke across the quiet sky, Leo opened his eyes. His first word was her name. Kayla smiled through tears. "You idiot. You were supposed to write a story worth remembering." He smiled faintly. "I did. I just didn't want it to end early." Word of Leo's sacrifice spread across both tribes. Even among the Neris, something shifted. Saraxa stepped down from her command. Warriors laid down their arms. And Dante fled. The war was over. But something greater had begun. The morning after the silence was the loudest in memory. No war horns. No fire. Only the quiet hum of wind drifting through the valleys once marked by battle. Where machines had risen, grass slowly reclaimed the ground. And in the stillness, a question echoed across the land: what now? The answer came in the form of footsteps. Dante was found 2 days later, hiding in a collapsed outpost near the southern cliffs. Exhausted, wounded, and stripped of command, he was dragged into the heart of the neutral zone, an ancient amphitheater once used for ritual song. Now, it would serve a different purpose. The gathering was unlike any seen before. Iskara and Neris stood side by side, warriors and healers, scouts and engineers, their faces drawn but curious. At the center of it all stood Leo, flanked by Kayla and Saraxa, both now stripped of armor, bearing only the marks of leadership earned through trial. Dante was brought forward. His wrists were bound with glowing vines, his once proud armor shattered. He stood straight, but the arrogance that had once fueled him was gone, burned away by failure and exposure. "Do you understand why you're here?" Kayla asked, her voice steady. He looked at her, then at Leo. "Because I lost." "No," Leo said. "Because you lied. You manipulated a prophecy, turned truth into a weapon, and nearly destroyed a world that wasn't yours to claim." Saraxa stepped forward. "You told us we were destined to conquer. That we were chosen. But all we ever were pawns in your story." Dante chuckled bitterly. "Stories are all anyone believes in. You just like mine better." Kayla raised her hand. "And now, the truth speaks louder." From the edge of the circle, Thera stepped forward. She carried a scroll, one of the original prophecies, recovered and restored. She read the final lines aloud. "The one who seeks the crown by flame shall fall. The one who carries no blade shall rise. For peace is not one it is chosen." A long silence followed. Then, for the first time, Saraxa knelt. Not to a ruler, but to an idea. "Enough blood," she said. "Let us build what we could not win." One by one, others followed. Warriors lowered weapons. Elders exchanged nods across tribal lines. And slowly, a new shape began to form, something unseen in generations. A council. Not of tribes, but of people. Representatives from both the Iskara and Neris, healers, strategists, historians, dreamers. They met under open skies, without blades, to draft a new accord. It would not be easy. Old wounds bled slowly. Distrust lingered like smoke after a storm. But each debate, each meeting, became a stone in the foundation of something new. Leo did not take a throne. He declined it when offered. This planet doesn't need a king, he told the assembly. It needs guardians. And it already has them. Kayla stood beside him as co-founder of the new alliance. Saraxa took charge of Naris military reform, pledging her warriors to defense rather than conquest. Thera, once trained to kill Leo, now led efforts to re-educate soldiers who had followed Dante blindly. And Dante? He was sentenced not to death but to silence. Exiled to the wastelands of the hollow spine, watched but not worshipped, left to reckon with the emptiness of his own ambitions. Some said it was mercy. Others said it was worse. But Leo never spoke of vengeance. He taught me what not to become, he once told Kayla. That's punishment enough. As the weeks passed, the land began to change. Ruins once feared became monuments to survival. Fields were planted where camps once stood. Songs were sung in both dialects, Iskara and Naris, melding into something neither tribe had known before: unity. Under the twin suns, Leo walked through the rebuilt sanctuary, now shared by both peoples. Children played among the roots of the Tree of Light. Engineers tested new energy cores powered by hybrid technologies. And in the heart of the plaza stood the new council hall, shaped like a spiral rising from stone and vine. Kayla found Leo there one evening, gazing at the sky. "Do you ever miss Earth?" she asked. He thought a moment. "I miss what I hoped it could have been. But this feels like what it should have become." She took his hand. "Then stay. Help us finish this story." He smiled. "Only if we write it together." And as the stars returned to their rightful place in the sky, the planet breathed anew, not under fear, nor prophecy, but under truth. The winds carried petals instead of ash. From every corner of the continent, they came pilgrims, warriors, farmers, scholars, drawn not by conquest, but by something rarer: unity. For the first time in living memory, there was no dividing line, no wall, no patrol watching for enemies. Only a shared path, winding up the sacred hill toward the Heart Spear. The Heart Spear, once ruins of a forgotten civilization, had been transformed. Vines now wove through sculpted crystal. Its spiral tower shimmered with interwoven patterns from both Iskara and Naris cultures, proof that opposites, when willing, could create beauty. At its peak stood a platform overlooking the valley. It was here that Leo had been asked to stand. He hadn't wanted it. Not at first. "I'm not a king," he told Kayla the night before. "I'm a survivor. A man who happened to fall out of the sky." She had taken his hand, her voice soft but firm. "You became more than that. Not because you wanted power, but because you never did. And that's why they chose you." Now, under the morning sun, the world waited. Kayla stood beside him, radiant in ceremonial robes adorned with silver leaf and light-threaded fabric. She wore no crown. Neither did he. That was by choice. The council had debated for weeks. In the end, the title chosen was not emperor, nor general. It was something new. Human sovereign. Not ruler of people, but guardian of harmony between them. The plaza below was alive with motion. Dancers from the Naris highlands spun in sweeping crimson arcs. Iskara musicians played with crystal chimes that echoed like starlight. Children laughed. Elders wept. And amid them, a single path opened through the crowd as Leo stepped forward. He wore no armor. No sword. Only a sash made from both tribes' colors, sunfire and moonleaf. The people quieted. The breeze stilled. Leo raised his hand. I never came here to lead you, he began. I came here in fear. I crashed onto this world thinking I had lost everything. And maybe I had. But then... He looked at Kayla. She smiled. I found something I never expected. Not just survival. Not just peace. But purpose. He turned to the crowd. Some still call me a foreigner. Others, a prophecy fulfilled. But I am only what you've made me, a man who listened, who learned, and who dared to believe you could forgive each other. Murmurs of agreement rippled outward. So today, I do not claim a throne. I do not wear a crown. Because I have not come to rule. He paused, and the wind picked up once more, gently lifting the sash at his side. I have come to build with you a future worth living. Not through force, but through hope. Through trust. Through love. He stepped back. The crowd erupted. Not with chants of war, but with cheers of welcome. Flowers flew through the air. Horns sang across the ridges. And for the first time, the echo that returned was not an answer to violence but a promise of peace. Kayla approached him slowly, then took his hands in hers. You're not just a man of two worlds anymore, she whispered. You're the bridge between them. Later that evening, beneath the starlit dome strung with lanterns, the celebration continued. The council offered gifts, tools of knowledge, seeds for shared harvests, scrolls of new laws written in both dialects. But the true ceremony happened in silence. In the garden behind the heart spear, where the tree of light still grew, Leo and Kayla stood together. No audience. No guards. Just two souls who had walked through fire to find one another. She reached up, brushed dust from his shoulder. Still think you're not a king? He laughed. No. But I'm starting to think I found something better. She leaned close. And what's that? He kissed her forehead gently. A home. The next morning, a new era began. Not carved in stone, but planted in soil. With hands that once held weapons now sowing seeds. With voices that once cried for vengeance now singing lullabies. And in the center of it all walked a man who fell from the stars, and rose through hearts.